Hello and welcome to Griffin Baptist Church's Bible Study. I'm Gary Wolves. I will be the teacher. Today we're going to be looking at the book of Daniel, chapter 2. And in chapter 2, we're going to be moving back into the training period of Daniel and his three friends. This passage is also known as Nebuchadnezzar's dreams. Daniel chapter 2 verse 1. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. The second year of his reign would have been 604 BC, and would have been in the last part of the first year or early part of the second year of the training period. Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, and they were such that they had troubled his spirit. No, he had not eaten pizza or spaghetti and that didn't agree with him. These dreams were the result of the working of the Holy Spirit. However, he was so troubled that it woke him up from his dreams. Then the king commanded all of his magicians and astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. It is important to note that the king has not revealed his dream to anyone. Now we see some of Nebuchadnezzar's character. He didn't instruct or tell his people to call the wise men. He commanded them to be called. Given a commandment, none of them would refuse to show up. Now he calls them to come and interpret his dream for him. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Nebuchadnezzar tells him he really wants to know what his dream means. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The Chaldeans spoke in Syriac, which was the Aramaic language, which was the language of that day in the courts of the kings. We need to make note that the language used to write the book up to this point in Daniel was Hebrew. But we will also see, starting in verse 4, the language changes from Hebrew to Aramaic. No one is quite sure why Daniel changed the language at this point in the book. However, Aramaic, like I said, was the court language and the diplomatic language of that day. Some believe it was because the events recorded deal with the Gentiles and not the Hebrews. This change is seen as being quite significant because it signifies God is now talking to the world. The term, O king, live forever, was a form of flattery the people used to flatter the king in that day. The Chaldeans were priests and other persons educated in classical Babylonian literature, were educated especially in traditions of astronomy and astrology. They told the king to show them the dream, and they would tell him what it means. Verse 5. The king answered and said unto the Chaldeans, The thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known unto me the dream, with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your house shall be made a dunghill. Now we get to see Nebuchadnezzar up close and personal. He tells them that he has forgotten the dream. This is one of two possible explanations for his statement. Nebuchadnezzar, in his mental state, has really forgotten the dream, or he has not believed that his wise men can do what they claim. It is possible they have interpreted something in the past and it did not turn out the way they said it would. So now maybe he's testing them. I do not believe in my own mind that he's forgotten the dream. It was so terrible that it woke him up, that his spirit was troubled. He tells them to tell them the dream and what it means. He says, if you cannot tell me the dream and interpret it, he was going to have them killed, and their houses made into a place where the manure from the stables was dumped. Verse 6. But if you show the dream and the interpretation thereof, you shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. Nebuchadnezzar now tells them, all you have to do is tell me what the dream was and what it means, and I will grant you gifts beyond your wildest imagination. This is the other side of Nebuchadnezzar's personality. He could be just as generous and charitable as he could be ruthless. The Chaldeans, magicians, astrologers, and sorcerers knew they could not tell Nebuchadnezzar the dream. They answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. These men were between a rock and a hard spot. They knew there was no way they could tell the king his dream, and if they tried to guess what it was, he would kill them for sure. The king answered and said, I know for certainty that ye would gain time because you see the thing is gone from me. I'll say this again. I don't think Nebuchadnezzar has forgotten this dream. I believe he's telling them, I'm not going to reveal the dream because if you are true Chaldeans, magicians, astrologers, and sorcerers, and not fakes, you should be able to tell me what the dream was and the interpretation thereof. As I said, I believe all along the way that Nebuchadnezzar has figured out these men are fakes and would tell him anything they thought he wanted to hear. I believe he has come to the conclusion that they will not give any bad news. They will only tell him what they think he wants to hear. Verse 9. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. For you have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof. Nebuchadnezzar tells them, if you cannot make the dream known to him, the decree he gave in verse 5 would stand. In verse 5, he told them, if you do not make known the dream and the interpretation to him, that he would have them cut into pieces and their homes made into a dunghill. Given the severity of the decree, it may also include the entire family. Nebuchadnezzar tells them, I know for a fact you're stalling for time, thinking I, in a weak moment, will tell you the dream, and then you can make up an interpretation for it. He is telling them he thinks they are fakes, and he is saying to them, prove me wrong. Verse 10. The Chaldeans answered the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asketh such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. At least they got this part of it right. This is probably the first correct answer they have given the king in a long time. For sure there is not a man on earth that could know his dream and interpret it for him. And it was unreasonable for him to expect them to know his dream. However, I do not believe telling him what the dream was is the real issue here. I believe that he has caught them lying to him in the past, and now he is using this dream to test them. Also, God is using this to reveal his power to King Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 11. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other than can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. Now they are pleading for their lives because they know it is an impossible thing. The Chaldeans tell Nebuchadnezzar that only the gods can tell him his dream. This part of the statement is classical Satan talking through these men. However, they did get it right. Instead of gods, meaning pagan gods, there is only one God that can reveal this matter to the king, and that is the one and only true God. the living God. And indeed his dwelling place is not with flesh, but in heaven. Remember, the devil is a master of religious deception. He will take the truth up to a point and drop it. That is what has been done here with these men when these men refer to the gods. In truth, there is only one God that can reveal the dream, and that is the one and only true God. Verse 12, for this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. The king's true character comes out, and he commands all the wise men be killed. Nebuchadnezzar now acts on his threat that he made in verse 5. This is where he tells them, if you cannot tell the dream and give me the interpretation, that he would cut them into pieces and their houses would be made a dunghill. Verse 13, and the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Even though Daniel and his friends are only in their second year of training, this decree includes them. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. I'm sure Daniel was surprised to find out him and his friends were to be killed because of this decree. He answers and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. At this point in time, Daniel and his friends were still in the training program and not in the court of Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel had no idea what was going on. He did not know about the dream, nor did he know the wise men had been called to tell Nebuchadnezzar the dream and its interpretation. I have said, and I'll say it once more. More reason is why I believe the language was used to write the book of Daniel might have been changed in verse 4 to Aramaic. Up to this point, Hebrew was the language, and I believe we changed to Aramaic because we are dealing with the Gentiles. Daniel may have gotten some of this information firsthand from King Nebuchadnezzar that he's writing, that he wrote at a later date, or he may have consulted the daily records that contained the records of each day's events that went on in the king's court. On the other hand, it may be just like the Bible scholars think. They say it might be because part of the book is dealing with the Gentiles and not the Hebrews. However, the reason for the change in language, Daniel still takes a diplomatic approach to what was happening. He answers with counsel. This may have been in the form of a quick prayer, or he may have discussed it with his friends, and they may have all prayed about it. Knowing Daniel's character, I'm sure prayer was involved somewhere along the way. Verse 16, then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. To do this was a bold move on Daniel's part, even though he had nothing to lose. You did not just go in to the king unless you were called. To do so could cost you your life. If the king chose not to talk to you, he could have you killed right on the spot. And to go in and ask for time to sort this matter out was just unheard of. However, God saw to it that Daniel found favor in the king's eyes because he did not kill him, and he granted him the time requested. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Meshach, and Azariah, his companions. At this point, things were happening very fast. He did not have time to tell his friends what he was going to do. Verse 18, then they would desire mercies of the God of heaven according to this secret, and Daniel and his friends should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. What is the first thing these young men do? They hold a prayer meeting, and they ask God to spare them from this decree. This is a good lesson for us today. When problems come up, we should take it to the Lord in prayer. They also asked the Lord to reveal the dream that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed. And I'm going to stop there. And in the next session, we'll pick up with verse 19. Have a blessed day.